Van Onselen's on the line. How are you, Leith?
Yeah, g'day, Jeremy. How's things?
Very good. We're talking about the fuel crisis. And the government, everyone's talking about the fuel crisis, but nobody quite knows what to do about it. What do you think of the handling by the government? Are they doing, what sort of job are they doing? Give them a mark out of 10.
Look, pretty poorly. I'd say probably, I don't want to be too harsh on the current government. The reason being, this has been a problem that has really, manifested for the past 25 years. And the reason why I say that is that at the start of the century or early 2000s, we had 7 fuel refineries in the country. Right, so we had 7 in Australia that could produce petrol, diesel, etc.
Yep.
Now we only have 2. Right, and a lot of those refineries actually shut down under the former coalition government, but they've basically we've been shutting down our domestic capability to turn crude oil into petrol, diesel, aviation fuel for the last 20 odd years. Right, so that's one of our vulnerabilities. The other vulnerability is that we are a member of the International Energy Agency, and under the requirements of being a member of that, we're supposed to have 90 days worth of liquid fuel stored within the country.
Yep.
Now, Japan and Korea have over 200, for example. Yeah. New Zealand even has 90 days, but 90 days is the minimum requirement. But Australia's only had about 30 days, right? So our federal government, on both sides of the aisle, so I can't just blame the current government, but former governments, recent governments, they've basically given up energy security for a just-in-time system whereby they assume that liquid fuels would be available from Asia whenever we need them. Now, obviously, that was a stupid, very stupid policy, very risky policy. And given the war in the Middle East and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, that's now created a massive problem because we don't have much storage here. We don't have much fuels already in the country stored. And we also don't have much refining capacity to even turn crude oil into petrol, diesel, and aviation fuel. And that is really the genesis of the problem. Now, what the current government could do, so you can't really unscramble the egg, right? It's already happened. We've got to deal with what we've got. But what we do have in our favour is that we are one of the world's biggest liquefied natural gas exporters. And one of the other major players who exports similar amounts to us is Qatar. Qatar has now been shut down through the Strait of Hormuz. It's also had some of its infrastructure damage. So Australia now has more dominance in the global liquefied natural gas market. So what I believe our government should be doing is leveraging that to ensure that we get deliveries of petrol, diesel, and aviation fuel. So, for example, Korea is one of our major suppliers of liquid fuels, so refined liquid fuels, petrol, diesel, etc. They are also one of the major buyers of our liquefied natural gas. They're one of the major customers. We should be saying to Korea, you must guarantee the supply of liquid fuels, and if you do that, we'll guarantee the supply of liquefied natural gas. And if you can't supply those things, well, we're going to pull back supply of liquefied natural gas. We should do the same to China. So China is one of our major buyers of East Coast liquefied natural gas, and China has actually stopped supplying us with aviation fuel. Yep. Right, because China's banned exports. We should be saying to China, we should be saying to China, okay, you've got to supply us with aviation fuel in return for us supplying you with LNG. Quid pro quo.
So why wouldn't they be smart enough in Canberra to do that? Take your advice.
Well, good question. Like we do have. Obviously, we're a massive importer of liquefied fuels. Liquefied fuels are about 42% of our energy consumption as a country. So all this brouhaha about renewables don't even make up 10% of our energy consumption.
Yeah,
liquefied fuels is the biggest one, and diesel in particular is massively important. So diesel makes up about 56% of our liquid fuel demand, and obviously we need diesel for freight because we're a big country. So pretty much every good that's in a supermarket or in a store has been transported there by diesel. Also, we use diesel in agriculture massively. We use diesel in mining, and if we have shortages of diesel, basically the entire economy stops. So it means your store shelves go bare. It means that agricultural crops wither in the field; they can't be harvested. Farmers decide not to harvest crops because they can't be guaranteed there's going to be fuel to actually harvest them. And it means that miners shut down. We've already seen some mines in WA actually close and lay off workers because they don't have enough diesel fuel. So Australia should be leveraging our our dominant position in as being one of the world's biggest suppliers of liquefied natural gas to Asia to guarantee liquid fuel supplies from Asia, because that's where we get most of our supplies from their processors. Now, that would be a logical solution to the problem that we have. It wouldn't guarantee that prices stay low. Obviously, we'd still pay high prices, but a bigger risk to us is not so much prices, it's that we actually run out of diesel, and that actually shuts down the economy. It means when you go to a store, the shelves will be bare. We can't harvest crops. We can't, obviously, operate mines, etc., which is where we earn most of our export income from. So that is what the government should be doing.
I don't know whether Macro Business, your company, has the government as a client, but they bloody well should be sensible enough to hire you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I mean, look. Economics is not actually that difficult. It's really just common sense and logic most of the time. And most of the time, the ordinary punter in Australia has, they can sense what's wrong, right? So they can sense that we're running an excessive immigration policy, for example, because the rental market is in absolute crisis. And they go, well, hang on, why are we bringing in more people than we can supply houses for? That's pretty logical. This is also fairly logical, this situation that we've got in. We are the world's biggest exporter of coal. We are the world's second biggest exporter of liquefied natural gas, and we're now more important than ever because Qatar has been knocked out. So our market power in the export of liquefied natural gas has actually increased. So we have more power. So we should really be using that power to effectively leverage the guarantee of supply of liquid fuels.
It's a strange thing that this supply chain expert or czar or whatever she is, they've chosen, or Chris Bowen has chosen, somebody who is a climate warrior and not an expert in logistics.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, obviously it's another political pick, and I don't understand why you get a climate warrior in such an important role. We really need someone who's a logistical expert and actually understands the energy market.
Yeah,
that would be the smart thing to do. And quite frankly, one of the good things that could come out of this crisis is that hopefully people will downrank net zero and all that sort of stuff in importance, and they'll uprank energy security. Which, let's be honest, what's the point of Australia having a military, even bothering to run a military, if we can't even guarantee that we can put diesel and petrol and aviation fuel in our jets, in our tanks, in our submarines, etc. Like, what's the point? If Australia runs out of fuel, and we're running very thin margins, obviously with only 30 days storage versus 90 days minimum requirement that the IEA says, and 200 in Japan and Korea, 200 plus days.
Yeah.
What's the point of even bothering with a military? Like, we cannot defend the country. We cannot grow our own food. We cannot supply all the things we need if we don't have a guaranteed supply of liquid fuels. Because unfortunately, like it or not, the Australian economy is powered on diesel, because we are obviously a very large country, so you need a lot of freight, both shipping, road freight, rail freight. But we're also a heavy agricultural country versus other countries, and also a heavy mining country, and all those things require diesel. And if we run out of diesel, literally the economy stops.
Leith, we've got a government that runs on ideology, not common sense. That's
right. And I'm hoping that the ordinary punter out there after this crisis realises that we've basically been focusing on the wrong things. I mean, it's all good to be idealistic, but you've got to be realistic here. And Australia is 1% of the world's carbon emissions. And we somehow think that we can, sacrifice ourselves at the energy altar to save the world's climate, when other countries like China and India don't care. They're doing whatever they want. Yeah. They're massively increasing their carbon emissions every year. They're burning more coal every year, etc. They're not playing by the same rules, and they're the ones actually driving the rise in global carbon emissions. So since the start of the turn of the century, China and India alone have accounted for about 80% of the rise in the world's carbon emissions. Well, what are we doing here? Australia is literally accounted for 0.3% of the rise in the world's carbon emissions this century, and we only account for 1% of the world's carbon emissions on an annual basis.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter what we do. Absolutely. I've asked people that question, and I get, we have to set an example. Oh, what bull dust.
Absolute bull dust. It is absolute bull dust. You've got to be realistic here. And energy security should be the number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 It should be energy security, energy security, energy security. That should be the primary focus of our policymakers, and all this other stuff.
And that'll look after the cost of living thing as well.
Yeah, that's right. It'll safeguard the economy, but it's not just that. It's instead of focusing on this net zero thing, whatever. How about just to focus on energy security and efficiency? So instead of trying to say, everyone's got to drive an EV or whatever, why not try and encourage people, say, into standard hybrid cars like they do in Japan? So I went to Japan last year, and virtually every single car in Japan is just a Toyota or a Honda hybrid. Right? They're not doing all this electric vehicle stuff because they know that to do that, you've got to completely rewire the entire electricity network, which will cost, in Australia's case, hundreds of billions of dollars plus, maybe $1 trillion to completely rework the entire electricity system. A much simpler fix is just to try and shift the passenger fleet into standard hybrids, where you get basically double the range as you do from regular internal combustion engines. They're incredibly reliable and they're proven technology. And if you do that, you get more efficiency.
It's a nice thing. It's a nice thing to do, Leith. But the fact is that we make so little difference to the problem. We could afford to do nothing. But these people are driven. They're driven by their green agenda to the extent that I was listening to 3AW the other day. And it was a story about the off-the-books industry, the green industry. We are paying $33 billion a year on subsidies and funny industries and setups that private enterprise don't want a bar of, but the government is in there with its ears back with our money.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. I wouldn't be surprised if actually more than that, because it's very obscure, like how these subsidies work. And we've literally blown billions of dollars on this green hydrogen fantasy, which doesn't even it's not a viable industry, which hasn't taken off anywhere in the entire world. And we've spent billions of dollars on this thing. Like, it's just it is basically virtue signaling over practicality.
Why do you think we're so obsessed?
Good question. It's
ideology.
It's almost like a mind virus has taken over Australia in a whole bunch of areas. And unfortunately, the energy is so critical to, especially Australia, but it's obviously critical to every economy, but especially Australia, the way our economy is structured, the size of it, the massive distances that we have to go to transport goods from A to B or people, etc., that we need to make sure, and the fact that we are endowed with massive energy wealth. Yes, we don't have a lot of oil wealth, although we could probably explore for more, but unfortunately that's now pretty much prohibited as well. We can't even drill for it. But we do have massive reserves of gas, massive reserves of coal, massive reserves of uranium, the world's biggest storage of uranium. We should be energy independent in so many ways, but instead we're giving up all that stuff. We're happy to sell 7 times more coal to the rest of the world than we burn ourselves.
Yep.
But then we deny ourselves the burning of coal.
Yeah, but hang on, Lee.
They're
burning it in a different atmosphere. Haven't you heard?
Yeah. It makes no sense.
No, none of it. But where's the opposition? Where is the media on all of this?
Yeah, they're just asleep at the wheel, unfortunately. Which is why programs like this and others which are outside the traditional mainstream media are so important, because they can't silence us.
No, they can't.
But unfortunately, I'm hoping the elevation of One Nation now will start to turn the dial on some of these issues, because they, to their credit, they're the ones who aren't afraid to actually talk the truth on these sorts of things.
No, I totally agree with you. Leith Van Onselen, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem, Jeremy, anytime.